After that grueling battle, Zuki was of course back to cleaning house for his squad of powerful waifus. Ni naturally needed Zuki to check all her gear. Himari, meanwhile, had him doing her laundry. And then there's Susu, casually demanding a massage from our hero. Seriously, where did the pretend not to need him strategy go? Before Zuki could even finish Susu's massage, Himari was already scolding him for accidentally mixing Susu's intimates with his own. Then Ni asked him for more training. After helping out all his powerful waifus, Zuki then went to assist Kyoka with her muscle training. But he was too late. She'd already annihilated the entire horde of scum demons. Just then, Squad 6 suddenly sent out a distress signal, so the two quickly returned to the dorms for their next mission. Nai immediately used her all-seeing eyes to pinpoint the locations of those trapped inside. Thanks to her, Himari and Susu arrived just in time to protect the lost civilians. Susu instantly went full kaiju mode against the fused demon horde, buying time for Himari to escort the two schoolgirls to safety. More and more scum demons kept swarming in, but Kyoka and Zuki also showed up just in time to join Susu in the fight. Without Zuki, these demons were already nothing compared to Kyoka. But now with Zuki added to the mix, the power gap became a literal black hole. Just then, a special demon tried to sneak attack Himari. Luckily, Rakiho used Time Freeze to save her rather unobservant sister. Sahara spun around the giant demons like they were Beyblades, while Tenka effortlessly wiped out a whole horde with a single strike. Right at that moment, a super colossal scum demon suddenly appeared, and Zuki asked everyone to let him handle it, because he wanted to get stronger to protect his big sister. And this was Zuki's chance to show off the results of his training with Kyoka. Without another word, both siblings charged straight at the giant demon. The scum demon immediately stomped on Zuki's seemingly small frame. But that was barely a warm-up for our farming king. Zuki unleashed a burst of power, causing the lesser demons to literally peel off the giant one. Seeing her chance, Kyoka instantly rushed in, cleaving the massive demon in two, much to everyone's delighted applause. No wonder Kyoka's been planning her future wedding with Zuki since day one. The story of how one guy became Kyoka's personal combat butler, fighting by her side, even caught the attention of the general commander, who seemed very interested in Zuki's file. Thanks to everyone's efforts, all the civilians safely returned to the real world. And here's the casual reward Zuki got for saving the day. As usual, Zuki was still oblivious to his own absurdly broken potential. But Kyoka's used to showering him with gifts, so it's all good. Kyoka used to think her ability was useless, but ever since Zuki became her personal cheat code, she's eyeing that general commander spot. And if Kyoka becomes General Commander, she'll totally overhaul the anti-demon corps and find a way to turn everyone with exploding peach power back to normal. Okay, so this reward segment officially wraps up here, because apparently it just blew past Paker B levels. Tenka, ever the dutiful future sister-in-law, also updated the boss lady on Ruki's situation. And every time Tenka dropped by Oba's, she'd roll up with a mountain of snacks for the other humanoid monster girls, instantly winning them over. Looks like the day Tenka officially starts calling Oba sis isn't too far off. Harem expansion, check. Speaking of which, the anti-demon squad's about to hold a big conference about the 8 Thunder Gods, so Tenka dipped out early. Though she couldn't quite figure out why the general commander summoned Zuki, of all people, to this shindig. Before even setting foot into the Team 10 dorms, Koka gave Zuki a super serious warning. Absolutely no eye contact with the general commander, because her personality is, unique. The Team 2 captain congratulated Kyoka on getting revenge for her homeland, but also dropped the bomb that the next general commander would be none other than Mira. And this was exactly why Kyoka warned Zuki about the eye contact thing. Mira also casually warned Zuki he'd drop dead in battle if he ever forgot to tie his shoelaces again, leaving our boy Zuki frantically checking if he had any other undignified loose ends. Even though Mira's words could cut glass, Kyoka knew good and well that the girl was secretly waiting outside just to congratulate her on defeating that one-horned beast. Stepping inside the Team 10 dorms, both of them coincidentally bumped into the Team 3 captain, who was awkwardly loitering outside. Apparently, Team 3 got absolutely clobbered by those humanoid monsters, so Belle was too embarrassed to join the conference inside. She just had a gut feeling the general commander would bully her if she dared step in. Turns out, even among the elite captains, there's a whole spectrum of uh-oh to oh yeah going on. Stepping inside, Ruki was absolutely floored to see the anti-demon squad captains, who, let's be real, are also his future harem, all lined up. Before they even entered the dorms, Kyoka had already warned Zuki not to look the general commander in the eyes. And when our boy dared to sneak a peek, her face was literally like this. After that intense stare down, General Commander Jen officially declared the conference open. First up, regarding the first squad, former Captain Mugale has officially stepped down to clear the stage for the younger generation. The current first squad captain, Konomi, also stood up to greet everyone right after, even though she's barely out of high school. Konomi is basically Jen's star pupil, painstakingly trained, so she's probably got what it takes to be the general commander herself someday. Even as a senior disciple, Kyoka clearly can't afford to underestimate Konomi. And just bringing that up had all these young ladies practically duking it out for the future general commander spot. Only T was terrified that her beloved husband was about to get snatched up by the general commander. Seeing Jen in a relatively good mood, Belle was just praying she wouldn't get bullied this time. After that, they moved on to discussing those pesky human-shaped monsters. Even though reports said Tenka took one down, Jen wasn't entirely convinced. The other two were apparently super strong, but Jen confidently stated they'd never stand a chance against her squad's might, and even if they were literal gods, her lower-ranked captains could still take them down. However, Team 3 was still giving Jen a massive headache. Their utterly dismal performance, she declared, was entirely the captain's responsibility. So after the meeting, Jen decided Belle needed some special training, which naturally sent poor Belle into full-on panic scream mode. But Kyoka, ever the aggressor, argued that just meeting the 8 Thunder Gods wasn't enough. They needed an actual attack strategy. Jen, however, felt a counter-offensive defense was the most sensible approach. After all, ever since she became the general commander, the number of Mado disasters had significantly dropped. So Tenka gave Kyoka the look, signaling that they couldn't mess with the Yin-Yang Liao just yet. The next topic Jen wanted them all to discuss was none other than that boy standing over there. Seeing this, Zuki immediately introduced himself to everyone and was praised by Fubuki, the captain of the 9th Squad. By the way, she also happened to be the mother of Himari and Yakioho, which completely caught Zuki off guard. Just then, a literal army of foul demons, uncountable like a locust plague, unexpectedly stormed towards the anti-demon squad headquarters, sending poor Belle into another round of frantic screaming. But this time, she was just crying because that old hag Yakumo was harassing her. An entire enemy army suddenly attacking right during the captain's meeting? Jen couldn't help but feel something was fishy. So Jen ordered 4 of the captains to go confront the enemy, while the rest would observe the situation. But Kyoka begged to join the fray because, defense just isn't her style. Ruki had no idea that while he was still transforming, the 4 captains outside had already completely wiped out the foul demons. Jinza also spotted 5 humans observing the foul demons from a distance. Jen immediately recognized them as the masterminds behind this attack and decided she would personally wipe them out. And Jen also gave Kyoka the green light to join the fight with her. While those guys were preparing for their second wave of attack, Jen suddenly appeared right in front of them. One of them tried to use a petrification ability, but it had absolutely no effect on Jen. The one who tried a sound attack, she literally turned them into a donut. Seeing that, the rest all charged at once. But Jen not only shrugged off their attacks, she could also completely nullify their abilities. Jen's physical abilities were also ridiculously phenomenal. So for these guys, it was game over right then and there. And just as Kyoka arrived riding Zuki, Jen had already taken down all the enemies, leaving him absolutely stunned. The reason Jen possessed such terrifying power was because a magical peach had granted her 8 different abilities. After that, Jen wanted to undo his transformation because she wanted to see him get his reward. Since Zuki didn't put in much effort this time, his reward looked super simple, but it made Jen surprisingly interested in him. Jen's attitude at that moment reminded Ruki of his own older sister. Meanwhile, Kyoka was super annoyed, knowing full well that girl would totally turn him into her personal plaything. Jen, on the other hand, just thought Zuki was adorable, like one of her pet puppies. Zuki's initial impression of the general commander was that she was a terrifying person. But most folks assume Jen's only power is flying, but nah, that's just a casual Tuesday for her. As for the goons Jen just casually clobbered into next week, they were just some greedy clowns eyeing the legendary demon Peach. Even though the Peach gets exported regularly, these guys apparently weren't satisfied with their share. Greedy much? That's why Kyoka thinks the demon capital is basically ground zero for all the drama, a super dangerous place to exist. After the captain's meeting wrapped up, Kyoka casually gave her junior and master a ride home. Squad 1's dojo is always packed with disciples, but she feels like nobody really stacks up to Kyoka. And in Konomi's eyes, her big sister Kyoka is hands down the strongest physical fighter among all the captains. Miyuga might look seasoned, but she actually used to be a captain leading the young guns, a duty later passed on to the Squad 9 captain. Kyoka also had the unfortunate news that the Grand Captain has apparently taken an interest in him. She's a huge animal lover, especially dogs. Though who's the dog and who's the owner later on, Zuki's not entirely sure. With so many other awesome captains around, Kyoka asked Zuki if anyone else had caught his eye. But he immediately replied that in his eyes, Kyoka was the absolute best, making her realize Zuki hadn't just leveled up his powers, but his buttering up skills too. Susu planned to visit Zuki's room today, so she got sparkling clean while waiting for him to return from the meeting. But the moment he stepped back inside, he was immediately roped into washing bottles and jars. scrubbing the house till it shined, and after all that, he just wanted to crash until tomorrow. While Zuki was dead to the world, little Sue snuck into his room, clearly intending to make him lose his integrity. The moment Susu successfully snuck into Zuki's room, she was already picturing all sorts of intimate scenarios. But then Susu casually discovered she wasn't the only one who had broken in. That wife Shikoku was already there too. So Susu immediately threw a punch at Shikoku right as she was about to snatch Zuki away. Shikoku didn't even bat an eye at Susu, but Tenka also arrived just in time to save her beloved husband. Since they were currently in the enemy's base, Shikoku decided to play dirty. She challenged the two of them. Whoever could make Zuki totally obsessed would be the winner, which coincidentally was exactly Tenka's kind of game. At that, the two immediately pounced on poor Zuki, much to Sue's astonished gaze. Sue was about to join the fray too, but then she suddenly realized something felt off. The enemy was right there. There's no way Tenka would just sit back and let this happen. Turns out, Shikoku had actually used an illusion on the two sisters, making them experience that whole dreamy, high-on-life moment. Just then, Tenka launched a surprise attack, which Shikoku had totally anticipated. What she didn't expect was Sue still being wide awake, and so Sue delivered a super painful blow right to her face. This made Shikoku incredibly salty. Having just taken 2 punches from Sue, this poisonous snake decided she'd hold a grudge against the blonde bombshell until the very end. After Tenka finally woke him up, Zuki realized a literal thunder god had just broken into his room, so he immediately thanked Tenka, his big sis. But she insisted that Sue was the real protector, and she was just backup. And when she got a thank you, Susu was absolutely over the moon, practically dancing for joy. Turns out, sneaking into his room to cause mischief and getting thanked for it was a huge win. Because those pesky 8 thunder gods were running wild, Kyoka decided everyone needed to sleep together, which left Susu utterly deflated since she couldn't sneak around anymore. Even she couldn't believe how curious the literal gods were about our ridiculously blessed MC Zuki. This kind of guy, who everyone seems to crave, made Jen want to claim him exclusively for herself even more. While Captain Jen was busy on patrol outside, Susu started cooking up some new shenanigans. No sooner said than done, she instantly shrunk into her mini-form and snuck right into Zuki's futon. Just thinking about crawling all over him, she cackled like she'd just hit the lottery. But Susu didn't know that Himari had a serious case of sleepwalking. The older girl saw Susu as some demonic human-shaped pest and attacked wildly, leaving Susu to scream for her life. Susu pleaded with Himari to listen, but when someone's sleepwalking, there's no talking or listening. Susu miraculously dodged the first 2 attacks, but the third one sent her getting kicked flat into the wall by Himari. After taking such a painful kick from the older girl, Susu was so exhausted she reverted her normal form. Just as Kyoka returned from guard duty, she found her younger sister slumped in a corner, so she promptly sent Susu outside to stand guard. Since the main threat, who could turn Zuki into their personal sim target, was on night duty, he thought he was in for a good night's sleep. But this time, it was Nei's turn to sleepwalk her way right into Zuki's futon. She mistook Zuki for her parents and clung tightly to him. Nei had previously told Zuki that her reason for joining the anti-demon squad was to find her lost parents. Now, with her shedding tears, Zuki couldn't help but gently comfort her. The next morning, Nei quickly apologized for being too groggy, but our unbothered MC didn't mind it one bit. Unsure how those pesky 8 thunder gods infiltrated the dorms, Kyoka decided to lend Nei some of her immense power for investigation. After taking hold of Zuki's unique power-sharing link, Zuki instantly transformed into his auric form. In this state, while his combat power was reduced, Zuki's senses were amplified many times over. He pressed his ear to the ground, searching for anything suspicious around the dorms, while also listening for nearby sounds, but he didn't detect anything out of the ordinary. After his transformation ended, Zuki was rewarded by Nei with some gentle head pats. Although everything around the base seemed normal, Zuki felt as if someone was watching him from above. No sooner had he thought it, than the general commander's wife suddenly appeared before all 3 of them. Jen was super curious to see Nei utilizing Zuki's power and hoped Kyoka could tell her more. Reluctantly, Kyoka had to explain to the general commander about the power-sharing mechanism, which gave Squad 7 more diverse combat tactics. However, if she lent her power too much to others, Kyoka would also expend a great deal of energy, which drove Jen absolutely insane. But the good news was that she could make Zuki her own slave, prompting Kyoka to immediately declare her undeniable ownership. Being quite busy with her current work, she promised to visit next time. After she left, Kyoka suddenly embraced Zuki. Even after Kyoka specifically told Zuki not to make eye contact with the general commander at the meeting, our boy still went and did it. So, Kyoka decided it was time to give Zuki a very thorough lesson. Because now their peaceful training days were officially over. And the absolute worst part about catching the general commander's eye, he's about to become her personal plaything. Just ask that one unlucky leopard girl from Squad 3. Now that all the squad leaders are working together, If this whole borrowing Zuki's powers thing gets out, it's going to be a massive headache. Today, squads 5, 6, and 7 are training together, which means Zuki needs to cook up an absolute feast. Zuki's cooking is so god-tier, they're happy to let him handle all the chores, while Tenka focuses on bringing home the bacon for her favorite husband. Right on cue, a sudden dramatic storm appears, all thanks to Yakumo's inversion ability. With all these overpowered abilities flying around, it's no wonder they picked Squad 7's base for training. The moment she appeared, our resident pervert Yakumo immediately pounced to greet her two teammates. Tenka was as stunning as ever, and Kyoka's physique looked incredibly toned. But the other two just couldn't bring themselves to reciprocate, seeing Yakumo's lecherous intentions practically glowing on her face. Meanwhile, Zuki was completely awestruck by the vision of the three squad leaders standing side by side. Before arriving, Yakumo had heard from Jen about Zuki's legendary power-lending mechanism, so she immediately begged her friend to let her test drive Zuki for a bit. Kyoka, however, had to warn her that she'd better be prepared to reward the slave generously. "Oh, trust me, that's exactly what I wanted to hear," Yakumo practically purred. Kyoka, clearly not expecting to run into pervert Yakumo, quickly ordered Zuki to stay safe inside the dorms and wait for them. And now for the main event, the intense training montage of squads 5, 6, and 7. Episode 3. While the ladies were grinding hard with their training, our boy Zuki was working just as diligently on his chores. No task is too big, no chore too small. Our MC handles it all with effortless grace. From laundry to cooking to house cleaning, nothing is difficult when you have Zuki's plot armor-level domestic skills. Meanwhile, Yakumo couldn't help but wonder why Kyoka didn't let Slave Kun train out here with them. But Zuki is Kyoka's slave, so when and how she trains him is entirely her own business. Our cozy mom Tenka, however, was blissfully delusional, thinking Zuki was expressing his love for her through his incredible cooking. Himari's ability to turn her body parts into weapons is a learned version of Saki's from Squad 5, so the two girls teamed up to train together. When Himari genuinely thanked her, Saki's face immediately turned bright red. The two sisters were training relentlessly, but the older one was also mercilessly good at teasing her younger sister. It had been a while since she got to spar with her little sister, so the older one was practically itching for some banter. Sakiho noticed Himari's shots weren't quite packing enough punch, so she offered to help her train. But Himari simply said, "No thanks," which absolutely floored her older sister. Even Saki was taken aback by Himari's decision, choosing her instead of. Meanwhile, our two physical-type powerhouses, Susu and Sahara, were getting ready to throw down, looking super competitive. Seeing the two sisters getting serious, Kyoka had to step in before they completely wrecked each other, and the whole place went to hell. Both sisters felt the other had grown, but the most developed thing was probably their spirits themselves. Noticing Sahara preferred training with her powers, Kyoka decided to step in and spar with her herself. Sahara poured all her power into fighting Kyoka, but the captain tier difference was just on a whole other league. Kyoka only needed a simple takedown to send Sahara's head spinning. Meanwhile, outside, Yakumo and Tenka were locked in an epic spar, 300 rounds in with no end in sight. But Yakumo wasn't about to give up so easily. Our resident pervert decided she'd do anything to gaze upon the depths of Tenka's soul. But Tenka would also do everything to stop that pest, because the only one allowed to gaze upon her soul was him and him alone. Right after saying that, Tenka used her blink-speed teleportation to repeatedly whack Yakumo, forcing the pervert to use wind powers just to escape. To test Tenka's goodness, Yakumo unleashed a fierce tempest, trying to corner Tenka. But with Goku-level instant transmission, Tenka was basically like, "Catch me if you can, slow poke." So Yakumo decided to unleash all her power, determined to get a good look at Tenka's incredibly plump and glorious soul, forcing Tenka to go all out to protect the precious gift she was saving for Zuki in the future. The end result? When the training finally wrapped up, both of them returned to Team 7's dorm, looking like they'd just survived a brawl with the 8 Thunder Gods. After that epic battle, Yakumo wanted nothing more than to just rest and bathe, but Kaiko disagreed, insisting they get patched up first. The Divine Peach had granted Kaiko the power of the Starweaver's healing, an ability that could restore everyone's injuries after a set period. Just in case, the captains would remain inside the regenerative cocoon a little longer. While waiting for the captains, someone slyly suggested everyone go bathe, secretly hoping his little sister would give him an intimate back scrub. Nai felt pretty envious of Kaiko's healing ability, thinking she'd be so much more useful if she had that power. But Kaiko insisted that Nai's ability was actually far more useful than her own, because thanks to Nai's all-seeing eye, everyone could properly plan their battles against foul demons, simultaneously preventing countless casualties. After Kaiko finished healing them, the squad of waifus all decided to soak in the bathtub, creating a literal visual feast for us all. There was only one person banned from this exclusive show, the ever-lecherous Yakumo, who had been securely bundled up by Tenka's crew. Kyoka forbade Yakumo. from using her powers to untie herself, so the pervert lord immediately turned to Zuki for help. And just like that, she struck several very suggestive poses, hoping to tempt our innocent MC Zuki right into her trap. Our boy Ruki liked what he saw, but apparently too much integrity can be a drag, just like his older brother always used to say. Ruki's decision was the best one ever, because that cheeky girl could actually untie herself without even needing her Peach's power, nearly making him jump out of his skin. By the way, our perverted friend Yakumo also took the chance to chat intimately with Zuki, feeling that Yakumo's sudden absence had left a gap among the Team 5 sisters. Tenka, however, suspected that girl was definitely just trying to find a way to peep on someone bathing. At this moment, Yakumo had a burning question. Was Zuki providing that kind of service to Kyoka every single night? The question made him scramble away. Due to a serious lack of interaction with guys, Yakumo was pretty curious about Ruki, but our boy Ruki was just too pure, preventing this pervert from making her move. Yakumo, however, could only sense the lingering presence of her little brother on Ruki. Yakumo said this because she's also an older sister to a whole squad of girls, and she's notoriously handsy with them, leaving Ruki utterly shell-shocked by this sister-obsessed pervert. Right on cue, the anti-demon squad sisterhood had just finished bathing, so Yakumo said her goodbyes to go stalk that infamous shark. The very next day, Squad 6 was slated to visit Unit 10, leaving Unit 7 to only train with Unit 5. With Tenka off duty, Yakumo decided it was time for some special bonding with Kyoka. But first, Yakumo absolutely had to test out Kyoka's infamous slave-borrowing power. So our dear Unit 7 commander warned Yakumo about the dangers of the rewards involved. But honestly, that was exactly what Yakumo wanted to hear. Plus, Kyoka herself had previously stated that the slave-borrowing ability would give the squad more diverse tactics, so she really couldn't object now. With Kyoka's reluctant approval, Yakumo instantly warped herself onto Zuki's back. The moment Yakumo grasped Zuki's chain, he transformed into a spectacular new form, aptly named the Blazing Phoenix. In this new fiery form, Zuki could soar through the skies like a magnificent dragon or phoenix, leaving Yakumo utterly astonished. But our demanding Yakumo wasn't exactly thrilled if Zuki's only trick was just flying. So she challenged Zuki to create something truly awesome, like a full-blown tornado, for instance. So Zuki, always eager to please, cranked his speed to max, whipping up a literal whirlwind that could sweep away everything in its path. This, naturally, sent Yakumo's excitement through the roof. She quickly realized Zuki could be even more awesome if combined with her own wind manipulation powers. On cue, Yakumo conjured a powerful vortex behind Zuki, propelling him to even greater speeds. In a mere flash, his top speed officially surpassed even the legendary Goat Commander herself. Mid-flight, Ruki casually spotted some stray scum demons, and naturally, he decided they were perfect test subjects for his newly mastered Absolute Ultimate technique. And just like that, the two spent a few glorious laps around the demon capital, casually farming scum demons before their transformation wore off. Because Yakumo wielded such ridiculously immense power, Zuki naturally expended a ton of his own energy keeping up. And immediately after, it was time for the much-anticipated reward session Yakumo had been salivating for. Now, this wasn't Zuki's first rodeo when it came to these kinds of scenes, but he had to pretend to be a little flustered to maintain his standing in the chivalry squad. Since Yakumo absolutely adores getting hands-on with the squad's ladies, it seemed that was precisely the reward Zuki was in for. And just like that, our resident pervert Yakumo casually used her wind powers to confiscate Ruki's shirt. Yakumo's ultimate ambition, to build a glorious harem starring all the gorgeous members of the anti-demon squad. And if he sufficiently impressed her, she'd even grant him a special, exclusive spot in her burgeoning harem. Bro, that's not ambition, that's pure, unadulterated delusion. After that bold declaration, Yakumo proceeded to thoroughly assess Zuki to see if he was even worthy of her elite harem. Thanks to his diligent daily training, Zuki's physique was, let's just say, exceptionally firm. Combined with his absolutely perfect 10 out of 10, no questions asked expression, our resident goat queen instantly stamped him worthy of her harem. Our boy Ruki secretly loved it, but to keep his precious spot in the chivalry squad, he absolutely had to play along and act just a tad bit surprised, for the plot. And thanks to this rewarding moment, Zuki got to know Captain Yakumo a little better. Turns out, Yakumo's family had it rough, which is why she joined the anti-demon squad. The pay was just that good. Before joining, Yakumo and her siblings used to huddle together against the brutal winter cold, much like she was just cozying up to Zuki. This little detail made Zuki suddenly remember his own doting older sister. While I've generously censored a lot, the official reward ceremony mercifully ends here, purely for the sake of your innocent eyes, my fellow cultured viewers. After they got back, Kyoka was understandably not thrilled, seeing the undeniable deer-in-headlights but make-it-lustful look all over Yakumo's face. To make matters worse, Yakumo then invited Zuki for a little something whenever he's free, completely sending our resident tsundere supervisor into a jealous rage. But Kyoka wasn't that worried just yet, because soon Squad 7 would be training with Squad 10, where the literal commander waifu, with her peculiar dog-owning hobby, was patiently waiting. Episode 4. Squad 7 immediately moved to headquarters after that, but the commander only invited Zuki and Kyoka to train with her. Remembering Jen's terrifying expression from before, Zuki actually felt a little bad for the poor waifus working in Squad 10. But Gina countered that Jen's intimidating vibe was part of her charm, even feeling honored to serve under her, which only made Zuki more worried, because that waifu wasn't just scary, apparently. The moment Zuki stepped into the commander's residence, he was even more astonished. This place looked straight out of a real-world millionaire's mansion. Apparently, Jen has really good connections with the country's high-ranking officials, so this kind of lavish setup was totally normal for her. Then, both of them saw the commander having a blast playing around, because dogs are apparently the only thing she's genuinely addicted to. The moment they spotted their future pack leader, the dogs immediately swarmed Zuki, covering him in a furry avalanche of affection. Jen explained to Zuki that they were just playing with him, like two excited older sisters welcoming their new little brother. But between Zuki and these dogs, who's really the pet, and who's the owner is still up for debate, my friend. Unlike Jen's casually playful demeanor, Kyoka was far more interested in knowing the actual reason she summoned them both here. Well, besides borrowing a slave for a bit, what other reason could there possibly be? Since Kyoka expends a lot of stamina when she's lent out, Jen decided to borrow Zuki instead, while he was still at his absolute peak. This understandably made Sister Kyoka extremely salty, but since Jen was her superior, she had absolutely no choice. The moment Jen stood on Zuki in his transformed state, she immediately felt a pleasant, tingling sensation. And when Jen took hold of Zuki's chain, a massive aura erupted around him, making Kyoka rather concerned. Zuki's new form was apparently called Slayer Fang, and his mistress felt like he was starting to lose control. That's why Kyoka frantically begged the commander to stop. But the fun apparently had only just begun. As soon as she said that, Jen ordered him to go farm all the foul demons lurking around. He immediately unleashed a combo of the Soundwave No Shadow Kick and Raging Dragon Kick on the horde of foul demons, making them all instantly evaporate. Standing before a literal army of foul demons, Zuki didn't even flinch. Our boy, who usually mains as a physical-type player, suddenly switched to using Teacher Shik's infamous black magic. Countless grotesque mouths appeared on the demons' heads, one after another, before Zuki completely. At this point, Jen was utterly thrilled by Ruki's destructive power. But right after that power flex, he started losing control and snapped back at Jen. So our total commander Jen decided it was high time to teach Zuki exactly who was the dog and who was the master. This was Kyoka's first time seeing Zuki's berserk form, so she immediately went after the commander. Back to Jen and Zuki's battle for dominance. With his dark aura flaring like a rebellious teenager, Zuki was absolutely not afraid of anyone right now. He charged at Jen with blinding speed, but not only did he miss, he got punted across the arena by the total commander. So he decided to switch tactics and bust out Teacher Shik's forbidden dark magic. But Jen, being the OP boss she is, instantly found a counter by simply bonking Zuki before he could even cast. When Ruki still tried to resist, she immediately made him literally eat dirt. After getting absolutely clobbered by Jen from start to finish, Ruki awakened his infinite recovery ability, which just thrilled her because now she could train him indefinitely. Jen's power allows her to wield the 8 abilities of 8 different Buddhas, and the scariest part? She can use 2 at once. Speaking of which, Jen unleashed a powerful kick straight at the young man who dared to defy his master, sending him flying backward on the spot. After getting beaten within an inch of his life by Jen, Ruki reverted to his human form, now a painful mess. She actually praised him for the first half, so surely his reward would be a simple head pat, right? But Ruki was like, nah, the real battle just began. As for our total commander, she's literally known as the pinnacle of all living beings. Since birth, Jinan has ranked first in every single field she's ever touched, from academics to sports. Jen's peach power completely overwhelms anyone else who wields similar abilities, making even the presidents of other nations declare her the ultimate apex being. And yet, here she was, about to perform a reward that would utterly humiliate her. Not even her ability to nullify other powers could stop this absurd turn of events. Even though she'd figured out how to dispel Kyoka's slave ability, she still couldn't stop the reward from being bestowed upon Dui. With that, she knelt down and snuggled into Duki's lap like an adorable puppy, leaving both of them utterly flabbergasted. It was only now that Jen realized Ruki's reward was actually petting her. Our blessed country boy secretly loved it, but had to put on a show of reluctance for propriety's sake. Though looking at his grumpy cat face, was he really enjoying this pampering? Ruki's feigned shyness was honestly getting on Jen's last nerve. She demanded that our lead stop playing coy and just end this ridiculous reward game already. The way Ruki was petting the total commander was exactly how she petted her own adorable puppies. After a good session of petting, Jen's body started to move again, which made the dog-loving commander happy, but being someone else's pet, not so much. But then, an unfortunate incident occurred, causing the reward session to continue indefinitely. For all you connoisseurs who want to see more, you know the drill. Find the manga and binge it. Kyoka, rushing to the scene, was utterly flabbergasted by Jen's face, which was as dark as a cloudy Monday morning. She then advised Aunt Seven to train harder, because her special form would drain a ton of his stamina. And as for that berserk state, Jen promised she'd definitely teach Zuki a proper lesson next time. And her face had that look like she just found her new daddy. Just Zuki. As soon as Jen made a swift exit, our boy Zuki finally gave out, collapsing into Kyoka's arms. Looks like our perpetually suffering from success lead had to put in some serious work to finally tame this particular waifu. This left Jen absolutely seething. Apparently, no one had ever humbled her like this since the day she was born. Just thinking about that reward moment with Zuki, Jen was already spiraling into a jealous mess on her way back home. After that devastating loss at Zuki's hands, she swore this incident would not, under any circumstances, be forgotten. Meanwhile, Zuki dragged his aching, plot armor-fueled body back to base. The only thing our boy could recall after losing control was Jen's unimaginably wonderful reward session. He also swore to train even harder, determined never to lose control like that again. Meanwhile, Kyoka, our resident top-tier waifu, was getting equally annoyed. These other waifus were treating Zuki like a communal farmhand, constantly borrowing him. A random, ugly demon thought it was a good idea to pop up right behind Kyoka. Spoiler, it got absolutely clapped. As soon as Zuki woke up, he immediately sought out squad leader Kyoka for training. But apparently, even her gentle touch was enough to make him crumble like he was cosplaying Levi after a particularly rough Titan fight. Our boy was feeling totally wiped out lately, yet all he wanted was to get back to Kyoka's training as quickly as possible. But our fiercely protective Kyoka wasn't having any of it. She just wanted him to rest and make a full recovery. Training spirit is commendable, she said, but health always comes first. Kyoka even went full princess carry on Zuki, much to his utter and complete embarrassment. After that intense training stint, the squad leaders all gathered to report their findings to the general captain. And poor Belle could only watch Jen's absolutely livid expression and pray for the best. But it was clear things were not looking crispy at all. Last time, Zuki was totally wiped out after training with Jen, so Kyoka wisely decided not to bring him to this squad leaders meeting. So naturally, a fuming Jen decided to vent all her frustration on poor Belle, who promptly burst into tears. After the meeting wrapped up, Tenka approached Kyoka, making our number one waifu instantly assume this girl wanted to borrow Zuki again. But Tenka casually brushed it off, saying there was no rush. After all, once she officially became his wife, she could use him whenever she pleased. Just then, squad leader Fubuki of Division 9 suddenly popped up, requesting a private chat with both of them. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the rest of the waifu squad was taking turns giving our perpetually blessed Zuki a nice relaxing massage. It had been ages since Himari had gotten her reward from Zuki, and she was starting to feel a little wistful, if you catch my drift. Right on cue, Kyoka returned, and guess who she had in tow? Himari's very own mom, Fubuki. Fubuki immediately shooed her daughter aside, declaring it was time for Mama to show her the true Azuma family massage techniques. Getting a massage from the experienced Fubuki made Zuki feel absolutely ecstatic, practically vibrating with pleasure. On a side note, Fubuki also casually reminded everyone that the battle for the Azuma family head position was about to kick off. Normally, Fubuki would be the shoo-in successor, but apparently the Azuma clan prefers to settle family matters with fists, not words. So Fubuki wanted her daughter to return for the family gathering, but Himari flat out declared she couldn't care less who became the next family head. You'd think Fubuki would use some drastic measures to drag her daughter back, but no, she just wanted a cozy mother-daughter bath time. Classic. Because Himari's skin was so flawless, Fubuki hinted, there would be many willing to get injured just to protect her precious daughter. And if Himari chose to keep fighting and became a disgrace to the family, her grandma would personally handle the problem. So to avoid becoming a problem, Himari's only option was to flex her strength for her mother. Quick lore dump. The Azuma clan is basically fantasy royalty, deeply tied to the anti-demon squad, and Himari's grandma was the legendary previous general commander. Tenka knew plenty about the Azuma clan, mainly because she was kind of keeping an eye on them. But let's be real, the Azuma family intel was just a pretext for Tenka to flirt with Zuki. Zuki was finally ready to jump into training with the squad. All thanks to a therapeutic massage from Fubuki, which apparently cured him of everything. Kyoka, hearing this, immediately activated her tsundere jealousy mode, and she, along with a few other waifus, proceeded to train him 7-squad style. While everyone else was clowning around, only Himari truly grasped the terrifying prestige of the Azuma clan. Episode 5. To prep for the Azuma family's legendary Grand Banquet of Destiny, Himari and Zuki dove headfirst into hardcore training. Hearing that Himari would be joining the festivities, the current Azuma family matriarch, Lady Tovera, was absolutely thrilled. Maybe because Himari actually landed some hits, during their friendly sparring session. She was feeling a bit more confident now. Tovera wondered if her granddaughter would blossom into a powerhouse or fizzle out for not showing maturity, which, in this family, probably means world-ending power. To prepare for the intense showdown against the 8 Thunder Gods and the selection of the next general commander, weeding out the weak links, like Himari, was deemed absolutely essential. The waifu home saw this as a golden opportunity to season Himari, but the waifu Mei quickly shut her down, reminding her that my sis is off-limits to your shenanigans. Annoyed, Home used her bizarre reversal ability to instantly transform her cousin's outfit into a full-blown wedding dress. But Maya was quicker, instantly retaliating against the junior, making her absolutely livid. I was just messing with my sis. Chill. Who knew she'd actually try to turn me into mincemeat for real? Despite spending all day farming stinky devils, these two were still ridiculously full of energy. This, of course, delighted Tovera, knowing the Azuma clan had such strong individuals representing them. A few days later, our 2 blue-haired sisters, accompanied by their respective captains, arrived at the Azuma family's grand evening party. The chain waifu tried to sneakily hold her sister's hand, but the little sis was having none of it. Right on cue, Tovera dramatically appeared to welcome everyone to her family's domain. She immediately enveloped her other beloved grandchild in a warm hug, conveniently ignoring the fact that Himari was also her grandchild. Because if Himari failed to demonstrate maturity during this banquet, Tovera would have to personally handle her granddaughter to protect the Azuma name from disgrace. The 2 captains were also on site to keep an eye on their subordinates, especially since the selection rules were supposedly super strict and everyone would be fighting each other. Kyoka, however, was chill, knowing our Himari is totally gonna crush it. Through all this drama, Tovera also wanted to size up Kyoka's capabilities to see if she was worthy of an alliance or just another passing acquaintance. Meanwhile, the waifu Tenka played the elderly gifting strategy card, earning her a perfect 10/10 score from Tovera. Tovera initially fully expected Fubuki to completely dominate the banquet, but with Yakioho and Himari joining the chaos, she was now looking forward to it even more. This battle royale would feature a total of 8 combatants, 4 from the main family, 5 of the 8 competitors are from the anti-demon squad, with the remaining 3 coming straight from the police's special ops unit. The rules are simple. All 8 will step into a pocket dimension for a winner-take-all brawl. Whoever's the last one standing gets to be the grand poobah of the Azuma family. Just as the tension was building, Tovera casually rips open the portal to the pocket dimension, leaving Zuki looking a bit bewildered. And right on cue, Home, our resident bully trope, suddenly runs over to absolutely roast Himari. Turns out back in the day, Himari was repeatedly bullied by Home right here in this very spot. So when Home sees Himari has the audacity to show up at this gala, she immediately decides it's time to serve up some long-overdue payback. Seeing his sister get absolutely trashed, Jaho was this close to punching that little brat and then just hitting the rewind button on time itself. But before Jaho could even flex his time-bending muscles, Himari had already swatted that girl's hand away. Himari then casually threatened to beat Home to a pulp, which predictably made Home absolutely seethy with rage. Just then, the former commander-in-chief announced the official start, and everyone began filing into the mysterious portal. For this battle, Himari will be channeling Kyoka's powers, so Zuki is stepping in as her trusty sidekick. Tovera requested that the 2 other team captains observe the unfolding chaos from a comfy little screen. No sooner had Captain Fubuki stepped into the pocket dimension than she immediately ran into her 2 younger siblings from the police special ops unit. To snag that coveted Azuma family head position, these 2 police siblings apparently spent ages studying how to counter Fubuki's every move. Their plan is to pin Fubuki down here, buying time for their 3rd special ops teammate to snipe her from afar. Meanwhile, Jaho's got his sights set on utterly squashing that Home girl before she even thinks about touching his precious little sister again. At the same time, Himari and Zuki have just warped onto their designated battle map. Himari thanked Zuki for casually following her into this mess without a single peep of protest. But Zuki, ever the master strategist, saw this as Himari's perfect shot at some sweet Azuma family payback, which of course made Himari super happy, knowing he'd truly embraced the legendary Team 7 philosophy. To prep for this epic showdown, both of them had apparently undergone some seriously intense training beforehand. As she was saying this, Himari suddenly got hit with a flood of super awkward flashbacks of their training, completely derailing her focus for the upcoming battle. And because plot convenience, Home dramatically pops up right in front of them. Home, in her infinite villain wisdom, figures if she just grabs Himari as a hostage, Zuki will instantly fold without even throwing a punch. But Himari, with her signature sass, simply retorts, "Oh honey, we'll see who's playing daddy and who's playing baby when this is all over." No sooner had Himari dropped that mic, than Zuki immediately unleashed a devastating wind ultimate skill on Home. But Home's speed was definitely not something to sleep on. Apparently, a mystical peach granted Home the bizarre ability to flexibly self-program her own body, which is a power. However, the part about her stripping mid-fight, that's probably just a side effect of some questionable life choices, or maybe a feature, not a bug. Home can preload data directly into her brain, and her body then just goes full autopilot, executing every command. While she can't change any actions once they're input, her body gets some ridiculously superpowered buffs during execution. And right on cue, Home immediately unleashes her Alpha Ultimate skill, forcing Zuki into a desperate defensive stance, just blocking everything. With Home relentlessly dropping skill after skill, Zuki finally snapped back with his own Wind Ultimate. But plot twist, everything was apparently part of Home's grand master plan, leaving Zuki screaming internally because this girl's tactical mind is basically equivalent to an AI with a PhD in cosmic chess. Even Himari had to break out in a cold sweat, realizing Home had somehow grinded her powers to an absolutely terrifying level. After gathering Zuki's combat data, Home decided to sharpen her blade and play the long game for a few more turns. The moment her prep was done, Home immediately lunged to attack Zuki. Even though he reacted in time, Home unexpectedly changed her attack trajectory, sending both of them flying back dozens of meters. This specific move was a little gift for Zuki, designed to restrict his movements. Home figured she'd finish him in 2 more turns after this. Home even had the audacity to tell Himari not to bother resisting, saving everyone some trouble. But Himari was like, "Excuse me, I didn't get this far by accident, you know?" At that very moment, Himari and Zuki unleashed the brand new, super secret combo move they'd been practicing. Grabbing the chain, an unexpected surge of power erupted within him, making him literally shine like the main character of a shonen anime. Meanwhile, the 2 sisters from the Special Police Squad were getting absolutely bodied by the experienced mother of 3. Despite being thoroughly bruised, they still clung to the hope of a sniper arrow coming from the mountain peak. But plot twist, Fubuki also had backup, and it was her eldest daughter Maya. They had spent ages trying to figure out how to counter Fubuki, only for her to casually mention she'd just been getting stronger too. Classic. Fubuki had been a prodigy since childhood, so hearing she'd gotten even stronger sent them into an existential crisis. From inside the Rocky Mountain, a pillar of light flared up like literal car headlights, grabbing both their attention. Back to the main event, someone just finished their flashy transformation sequence. Kyoka, observing from the sidelines, was absolutely thrilled, having finally understood the true potential of evolution. Home, ever the strategist, took one look and guessed this was some kind of temporary super buff with a strict time limit. But Himari wasn't even bothered to explain, knowing full well Home would fall asleep before she could even grasp it. Home suddenly decided to activate her tactical retreat, looping around the island to wait for Zuki's power-up to wear off, completely unaware that he was right on her tail. Zuki, however, had other plans and unleashed a surprise kick, sending her flying back dozens of meters. This instantly made Home lose her cool, as she charged back at Zuki with a flurry of enraged attacks. But not only did she fail to even land a hit, Zuki casually kicked her so hard she hit the floor like a sack of potatoes. Despite being absolutely pummeled, Home somehow managed to stagger back up, clinging to her last reserves of strength. She then provocatively dared Himari to a one-on-one duel, if she dared. And when Himari agreed, Home was ecstatic, because she'd allegedly clapped Himari 5 times already with her bare hands. But Home completely forgot that Himari was part of the physical combat squad, and also, she didn't get that "I'm your daddy" title for nothing. This, understandably, made Home absolutely seethe with rage. She immediately pulled out her heaviest firepower, going all in on Himari, because that stare Himari gave her was giving off the same "you're trash" vibe Fubuki used to give everyone. Himari, for her part, held just as much of a grudge against the Azuma family as Home did. But the motto of Squad 7 was simple: business is business, personal beef is personal beef. A punch debt must be repaid with a punch. Tovera and Kyoka were absolutely enthralled watching Himari's performance. Meanwhile, our resident waifu Tenka was only focused on the move Zuki had just used. After the battle ended, Zuki reverted to his human form and was promptly rewarded by Himari. Himari immediately went all in on a makeout session with Zuki, just as Mami Fubuki decided to casually walk in, making both of them scream like banshees. But even more surprisingly, she gave them her blessing to continue whatever they were up to from a few days back. This entire reward situation left Jen feeling incredibly salty, so now some literal fish are about to catch some hands. Picking up right where that previous reward left off. After a little unintentional exposure, her body completely locked up, giving us some fan service so hilariously bad it only beats a literal black screen. So she decided to order a special collar online, ensuring the battle to determine who's the top dog and who's the literal pet officially begins now. Meanwhile, after a period of absorbing Aoba's 2 teammates, the final superpowered 8th Thunder God, Kusetsu, has finally been unleashed. Sakak was absolutely fuming because just days ago, that brazen Susu decided to casually punch her twice, leaving Kusetsu scrambling to appease her with all sorts of tricks. But thanks to all that drama, Seacoke actually started to understand humans a little better. She realized their powers could spontaneously erupt with emotional changes, so she warned everyone else that humans are absolutely not to be underestimated. Kusetsu, however, couldn't care less, casually confident that she was superior to mere humans in both raw power and stunning beauty. So when John had the audacity to call her childish, she immediately went full Super Saiyan to casually punch her big bro. Kusetsu is already a powerhouse, but Seacoke insists she still needs way more training to truly become a core pillar of the Eight Thunder Gods. Because she has the ridiculously broken ability to absorb her opponent's peach power, meaning her strength has literally infinite growth potential. But our girl only cares about becoming even more stunningly beautiful, which naturally makes the other three completely exasperated. Back in Azuma's alternate dimension, Zuki and Himari were in the middle of a serious makeout session when Fubuki once again casually walked in. But this time, she didn't even bat an eye, simply allowing her daughter to continue right where she left off. Because she fully understood that this was part of the legendary slave reward package. And if you're going to give a reward, you might as well do it properly. Having said that, Fubuki then casually jumped in to help her daughter distribute even more dog food, leaving our blessed but suffering Zuki with no choice but to stand there and endure it all. With all the branch family members now completely defeated, it looks like the real main event, the battle between Himari and Fubuki, is about to kick off. Fubuki then casually summoned a spear, which, as Zuki knew, could extend or retract its length at will. This ability seemed pretty simple, so Zuki was confidently planning to counter it with his heavenly advanced technique. No sooner had he spoken than Himari instantly entered her golden state, making Fubuki realize that even Homie probably got taken down by this exact move. Zuki then launched a wind-based ultimate technique, charging right at Fubuki, but she thrusted her spear with such ridiculous speed that he couldn't even get close. Clearly, the captain's power level was just on another entire dimension. So Zuki decided to try changing his attack distance, but before he could even budge, Fubuki casually whacked him with her spear, laying him out flat right there on the mountain. That single blow was enough to officially knock Zuki unconscious on the spot, leaving Himari utterly speechless. Fubuki then explained that Zuki was just too inexperienced fighting her in this form, and Himari allowing someone else to protect her was honestly the most disappointing thing ever. When it comes to fighting using slaves, apparently only Kyoka is ever truly enough. This, understandably, sent Himari's anger through the roof. She immediately unleashed 10 missiles directly at her mom, knowing that even if she somehow blocked them with her spear, the sheer impact from— But that was just wishful thinking, because Fubuki could just destroy it first, and Himari would be officially out of commission. And get this, Fubuki had only been using a measly 10% of that spear's power so far. No sooner had she spoken than Fubuki swung her spear, a blur so fast Himari couldn't even react. Fubuki, being a vice captain herself, had at least hoped her daughter would push her to use 30% of her full power. Watching from a small screen, Tovera and the others figured the main event was about to wrap up. Seeing her two subordinates getting absolutely clapped like that, Kyoka was itching to jump in and join the fray herself. When Jaho saw his sister getting utterly wrecked by their mom, he tried to jump in and rescue her, but Mai appeared just in time to stop him from interfering. Because this whole thing was about the Alma family, and if even Zakiho couldn't save Himari, then Fubuki was super curious to see how her daughter would actually fight back. Seizing the moment Fubuki got close, Himari actually stepped on the spear and launched an attack using Squad 7 martial arts. But here's the kicker. When the spear was summoned, Fubuki's physical strength got buffed right along with it. So Himari's attacks were basically just throwing salt into the ocean. So Himari conjured up a 4-barreled cannon for a surprise attack, but it dealt exactly 0 damage and just got her yeeted dozens of meters away by her mom. After 2 hits from her mom, Himari was an absolute crumpled mess, looking like she'd been run over. With this kind of power, if she actually made it to vice captain, then it looks like both Squad 7 and Captain Kyoka are completely useless. And as Fubuki dished out insults about Himari's respectable captain, she actually helped her daughter unlock that legendary flashback power-up skill. Back when she got promoted to vice captain, Himari was totally caught off guard, but Kyoka told her she'd been watching her from day one and knew she'd be great. But Himari was too scared to accept, worried that Squad 9 would hold a grudge against Kyoka for associating with a clan outcast like herself. So what if they do? Because I really want you in this position, she said, making Himari burst into tears. Because Himari had suffered countless insults from the Azuma clan before, she never thought anyone would ever uplift her like this. Seeing her future vice captain weeping like that, Kyoka got teary-eyed herself. She pulled Himari into a tight hug, reminding her that with her true strength, she had absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And right now, with her respected captain just insulted, Himari suddenly exploded with power. Strange patterns suddenly erupted all over Himari's body, looking suspiciously like she'd just gone Super Saiyan, which genuinely surprised Fubuki. Himari demanded her mom take back those words immediately, because she would never forgive anyone who dared to badmouth her captain. But Fubuki would only take back those words if Himari was strong enough to actually make her. At that, Himari unleashed Yakumo's wind manipulation ability, launching an attack on Fubuki, then instantly switched to Tenka's space gates to teleport right behind her. But she wasn't done yet. Himari then chained into Home's bone ability, unleashing a relentless barrage on Fubuki, leaving everyone pretty stunned. They couldn't believe she could use so many different powers like that. And before Fubuki could even process what was happening, Himari used Yaki's time freeze, landing a brutal kick right on her. Himari's only demand was for Fubuki to take back all those harsh words about Captain Kyoka. Meanwhile, Tovera looked absolutely delighted, because the Azuma clan had just gained another awakened power user. Witnessing Himari's accidental power flex, Fubuki officially takes back all her previous shade and now wants her daughter to go absolutely wild. Himari was just about to compliment the captain's genius, but before she could finish, she straight up passed out right into Fubuki's waiting arms. Looks like Himari just shattered her own limits, which was exactly what Fubuki needed to see her daughter's true, terrifying potential. If Zakio had jumped into that fight earlier, nobody would have ever witnessed Himari's full unhinged power. Since Yakioho was on Himari's side and Ma was backing Fubuki, Himari losing actually meant Fubuki won and is now the official head of the household. Meanwhile, the 8 Thunder God wives just snagged a PS5, so they're busy duking it out in a Street Fighter tournament. Sakak, of course, wants to experience all the petty human pleasures before completely annihilating them. After casually absorbing both Naon and Koko, Kusetsu now has the OP ability to phase through anything and instantly heal herself. She then casually flexes that she can absorb even more, so she's on the hunt for another super powerful, but obviously also super hot, person. Standards, people. Kusetsu's growth potential is literally infinite, but her wildly unpredictable and somewhat problematic personality is a whole other monster to deal with. All the injured folks were then casually healed by Tovera's absolutely legendary peach power ability. Juki was absolutely flabbergasted to learn that Himari could just keep using all the captain's abilities one after another. But honestly, the novelty is totally worn off for him now. Kyoka, ever the wise mentor, told her juniors not to stress, because that's how you actually get strong. Tovera was absolutely thrilled to see her granddaughter finally prove her insane potential. It was only then that she officially recognized Himari as a true Azuma, and immediately started hoping she'd have a gazillion babies with Zuki. What a truly iconic grandmother-granddaughter duo, am I right? Just as Tovera was about to unleash her full chaotic grandma energy, Fubuki suddenly appeared to put a stop to her mom's shenanigans. Fubuki acknowledged that the Azuma clan's current peak status was entirely thanks to her mother, but also pointed out that her mom's overly competitive environment turned all the kids into battle-hungry maniacs. She also kindly requested that her mother stop talking like a toddler and maybe, just maybe, ditch the middle school uniform. But let's be real, that's probably a lost cause. This, naturally, sent Tovera into a rage over her disrespectful daughter, forcing Fubuki to remind her who was actually running the show now. Even though she was totally salty, Tovera had to grudgingly admit that her daughter had truly grown into a formidable force. As the new head of the household, Fubuki wanted everyone in the clan to just get along a little bit more. As for those unruly branch family members, she'd personally educate them with a very special kind of love. She also gave a sincere apology to Kyoka for her earlier, less-than-kind comments. And a massive thank you to Tenka for looking after everyone, and to Kyoka for forging such an insanely powerful Himari. After the party wrapped up, Himari and Zuki stayed behind to train up their new skills with Fubuki, because, being absurdly strong just isn't enough sometimes. Episode 7. Susu was chilling at home, working out, when they casually dropped the news that Himari's mom was the official winner of the evening's intense family drama. And she was super happy that Himari had officially buried the hatchet with her chaotic family. For the past 5 days, Zuki had been non-stop training with Himari, leaving Sue absolutely no chance to get close. So she's decided to, expand her territory once our unbothered MC finally gets back. And to do that, Susu just casually bought this to learn the ancient art of taming Yuki. Turns out, all that teasing in their younger days was just him trying to protect his sister from that infamous hacker coder. Finally, Himari realized the truth, sending a heartfelt thanks to Zakiho, which absolutely made her older sister's day. Himari's epic house-sliding moment was just like my brother's legendary grass skid that one time. That very night, Himari decided it was time to ambush Zuki and bring his genetic code back to the Azuma household. It wasn't just Grandma Tovera's grandchild. Tovera herself even snuck in here to get some footage of Zuki. Unfortunately, Himari and Zuki were still in their training arc inside a pocket dimension and hadn't come out yet. Tovera's suspiciously youthful, middle schooler-like body is all thanks to her peach fruit ability, which allows her to absorb life force from flowers to stay young and heal others. And thanks to that utterly broken, game-breaking ability, Tovera has been holding a seat right next to the Grand Commander for ages. Meanwhile, Fubuki and her daughter were working on fixing a few minor drawbacks in Zuki's heavenly advanced state. She also took the chance to test Kyoka's slave-borrowing ability, eager to see what form Zuki would transform into, much to Himari's anxiety. Because if Fubuki also turned out to be Zuki's master just like Himari, then later on both mother and daughter would be rewarding that lucky young man together. Zuki's new form is appropriately named the Infinite Flesh Bullet. While his strength and speed took a significant hit, in return, his body became as elastic as the mother and daughter's spirits. After getting his hands on the power of the rubber fruit, he immediately Gomu no crushed that rock into oblivion. If he can truly master the elasticity in this state, the team will unlock a whole new level of tactics. But it also drains Zuki's stamina like crazy, leaving him with an intense craving for sweets. And so, after finishing his intense training session, Himari's body automatically went to forage for honey, and in this anything but normal anime, rewarded him in the most perfectly normal way imaginable. Fubuki even upped the ante, making the majestic nature literally bathe in honey, and at this point, you guys already know exactly what's about to go down. That reward scene was absolutely too NSFW to show, so to save your precious eyes, I've taken the liberty to skip past it. Meanwhile, the swimsuit magazine model was casually taking a bath. After a long, hard day's work, his wife Kusetsu decided to make a surprise appearance. Kusetsu, who loves upgrading her beauty just like Naon, has recently been kidnapping beautiful girls for her own nefarious purposes. It had been ages since the squad got a break, so Kyoka decided to treat all her juniors to a much-needed vacation. This little getaway also included Tenka, the literal stray cow from Squad 6. Meanwhile, poor Himari was stuck at home in the dorm attic, apparently for having a little too much screen time lately. Sue planned to use this opportunity to expand her territory. Little did she know, her opponent was just way too much for her to handle. Given this chaotic herd, Susu wouldn't even get a chance to make a move before his wife Yakumo would gobble it all up, let alone the other two girls. So Sue decided to make her move during this trip, but she kept getting interrupted by Nei and TK, leaving her. Susu finally saw her chance to make a move on our main guy Zuki after her biggest rival left for work. She seized the opportunity to take a bath, hoping to level up her charm stat from good to irresistible for him. This left our boy Zuki incredibly flustered, while Susu was thrilled her master plan to win his heart was finally paying off. After showering, Zuki took the chance to watch the sunset by the sea, because in the demon capital the sky is always a dramatic, fiery red. Susu also seized the moment to flirt with Zuki, thinking, isn't this basically a date now, bro? But our blessed MC thought Susu was just replaying her favorite romance drama in her head. On second thought, though, he realized Susu had been acting pretty cute lately, which kinda threw her for a loop. Overcome by emotion, Susu almost went in for a kiss, but then the main waifu's phone call instantly pulled our boy away. Susu's romantic fantasy lasted all of 5 minutes before it poofed out of existence. Because honestly, her attempts to flirt with Zuki always ended exactly like this. Meanwhile, Zuki had just been summoned by Kyoka for a training session. Even though they were supposed to be on a short break, Zuki hoped his captain, Kyoka, could help him improve his advanced transformation state. But Kyoka wasn't keen, because she wanted Zuki to save that as his ultimate trump card. Plus, she figured training with it, when he wasn't at peak performance, wouldn't be very effective. Kyoka realized his loss against Fubuki wasn't due to a lack of combat experience, but because his overwhelming power was just too much for him to perfectly control. So, more self-training was key to Zuki gaining better control in his advanced state. Since one of the 8 Thunder Gods was an aerial combatant, Kyoka wanted Zuki to practice his long-range attacks more. Right now, Zuki's only method of long-range offense was, quite literally, turning into a rock-throwing machine. But of course, Kyoka already had a specialized training method for that too. It had been so long since she'd ridden Zuki, Kyoka was actually a little disoriented, completely unprepared for how ridiculously fast he could go now. Zuki thought it was because he'd been training a lot with Himari, making his body lighter, but Kyoka knew better. Because she felt his base form actually got stronger every time she loaned out his alternate forms to someone else. The proof was that Zuki had learned to absorb the strengths of these loaned forms, giving the whole lending him out thing a brand new meaning. This made Zuki incredibly happy, because the more Kyoka loaned him out, the stronger he became. Kyoka should have been ecstatic about this, but for some reason she wasn't thrilled at all, leaving our boy Zuki thoroughly confused. Reflecting on it, Zuki realized Kyoka had always used this sword, meaning him, to fight powerful enemies and personally resolve critical situations. Because of this, Zuki vowed to try even harder, to stand side by side with Kyoka and his own evolving power. Having made this grand resolution, Zuki immediately ran to the beach for an absolutely insane god-tier push-up session. Cut to a meeting of captains, where it was casually decided that everyone would take turns riding Zuki today. Every single person there was a formidable rival for Zuki's affection, and his visibly ecstatic face gave Kyoka a massive headache. Unable to accept being turned into communal property, Kyoka screamed, desperate to escape this absolute nightmare scenario. But boy, this dream was a weird one. Thankfully, Susu and Nei were still sleeping soundly, so no harm done. And Kyoka had no idea that her recent dream would turn into a full-blown nightmare for her. So Sister Seven ventured to the sea, desperately seeking answers as to why her chest always tightened whenever Zuki was loaned out. But Zuki wasn't exactly thrilled about being loaned either, as he just wanted to team up with Kyoka like they always did. He thought it would make them stronger, but deep down, he just felt totally off-kilter. So he yearned to fight side by side with Kyoka, just like any other chill day. Zuki's unparalleled waifu coaxing words made Kyoka incredibly happy. She suddenly hugged Zuki and declared, "Now that's how you're supposed to be, my slave." Ha ha. After that, they both dove back into their intense training, searching for new ultimate moves well into the next morning. Kyoka then realized her sword became insanely powerful whenever she gripped the chain, a major breakthrough for both their new ultimate skill. After a grueling night of training, Zuki also received a well-deserved system reward. But before our boy could even enjoy his spoils, a sudden alarm horn blared, ruining the vibe. The episode ends with Zuki bringing his new swimsuit model waifu back to base, surrounded by even more beautiful girls, naturally. Episode 8. With the sudden appearance of an 8th Thunder God, the Grand Captain decided to call for an emergency captain's meeting. On his way, Zuki casually noticed Captain Vivara of Squad 8, giving him a serious death stare from afar. When he tried to ask what was up, she literally just ran away. But when she glanced back, her stare was even more terrifying. A little further down the road, Zuki got casually kidnapped by his possessive waifu, Yakumo. Captain Yakumo wanted to borrow Zuki to fly directly to the Haido Hot Springs for a co-ed spa day. And as for his reward, she could totally give it to him right then and there. After managing to escape the clingy Captain Yakumo, Zuki immediately ran into Captain Tenka. Knowing Zuki was a walking magnet for trouble, she seized the opportunity to drag him straight to the meeting room. Apparently, the Grand Captain was stuck on a super important business trip in the US, so the meeting was going to be an online video call. Over the past few days, there'd been a string of mysterious disappearances, and police footage caught a Thunder God literally phasing through cracks and vanishing. And since they were dealing with a full-blown Thunder God, the Anti-Demon Squad naturally had to get involved to balance the scales. For starters, Zen decided to send a specialized strike team to the real world to assist the local police. And since Kusetsu's usual hangout spot was under Captain Mira of Squad 2's jurisdiction, Zen entrusted the mission to her. Mira confidently declared, "I can totally crush that Thunder God all by myself." Zen, however, strongly advised her to bring another captain along. Yakumo immediately volunteered to join Mira, but Mira absolutely refused to be accompanied by that goat. The person Mira decided to bring along for this particular strike mission was none other than Kyoka. The remaining members were tasked with staying behind in Mado to provide support, just in case things went south. Immediately after the meeting, Mira and Kyoka teleported to the real world, ready to get things heated up. Meanwhile, Kusetsu, our resident villain, was busy admiring his freshly caught delicacies. Kyoka and Mira teamed up with the local police, confirming that Kusetsu's recent victims were thankfully still alive. But it would take until tomorrow night to pinpoint the exact location of said victims. Seeing as the opponent wasn't exactly human, both heroines kindly requested the police leave the actual rescue mission to the Anti-Demon Corps. Based on the gathered intel, Kusetsu wasn't just a master diver, but also apparently had flight capabilities. This specific power seemed to be pilfered from some humanoid demons that Kyoka actually recognized. However, the list of current victims didn't include anyone with abilities grand enough to be worth stealing. To get a full tactical overview of the battleground, the trio ascended the Ferris wheel for a panoramic city view. Turns out, Mira and Kyoka had known each other since their early days joining the Anti-Demon Corps. Back then, Mira was the undisputed unbeatable boss of Okinawa, yet she somehow lost to Kyoka in a battle without using powers. Both were promoted to captain around the same time, tasked with defending the two most volatile districts of Mado. While teammates, they were also fierce rivals, both eyeing that coveted general's seat currently occupied by Jen. Afterward, the trio casually dropped by a Chinese restaurant for some well-deserved lunch. Over lunch, Mira confessed her reason for choosing Kyoka wasn't about competition, but because she genuinely believed they could conquer any enemy together. Even though they both aimed for the top commander spot, they'd never resort to dirty tricks against each other. She then warned our resident slave boy not to get too hyped up, because innocent lives were always the priority. Mira then continued their city tour, adding a stern vow that she would absolutely not forgive whoever dared to abduct the innocent citizens living here. That night, Mira surprisingly offered to scrub Kyoka's back, leaving our stoic captain thoroughly confused. Apparently, Mira had noticed Kyoka and Tenka constantly making suspicious eye contact lately, clearly hiding something from the rest of the squad. Kyoka instantly admitted it, but couldn't tell Mira yet, sending our big sis into a state of absolute shock. But she promised that at the perfect moment, Kyoka would spill all the tea to Mira. That very night, Ruki was catching Z's, dreaming of his training sessions with Kyoka. So our blessed boy Ruki decided to look for the captain, only to accidentally stumble upon Mira completely in the buff. Ruki figured he was about to get absolutely yeeted to the next dimension, but Mira just shyly apologized to him with an almost embarrassed expression. She then told Ruki not to dwell on it too much and always be ready for deployment. The next morning, the special police squad successfully tracked Kusetsu all the way to a suspicious mansion. Immediately, a random monster popped up, trying to block the duo's path. At first glance, this lime-green monstrosity seemed strong, but Mira felt it was critically missing one thing: spirit. As soon as she finished that thought, Mira punched the monster, sending it flying onto its back and cracking a few of its front teeth. Mira's sheer physical strength was almost on par with Kyoka's, making Ruki wonder if she had some hidden power-up ability. Just then, a clever spider demon suddenly brought out a hostage to try and threaten Mira. While Mira was distracted, the spider demon immediately lunged at her. But then, another Mira suddenly appeared to rescue the hostage, because the injured While Mira was busy flexing on the Spider Queen, Kyoka and Zuki decided to tag team that other disgusting green monstrosity. That green menace instantly got into a fighting stance and lunged at Kyoka in a flash. Even though Kyoka immediately sliced that creature in half, it still managed to tag her with a few light scratches. Mira absolutely detests anyone who plays the hostage game, so she was more than ready to make them pay. On the surface, Mira displayed physical strength that looked suspiciously enhanced, but in reality that wasn't her own power. It was the ability of her trusty vice captain, Megumi. Megumi once walked the path of a rebellious delinquent, trying to prove herself, until she eventually ran into Mira. Megumi was so incredibly proud to stand by Mira and wave her flag that the universe itself blessed Megumi with the power to amplify her captain's strength. Back in the fray, that spider monster decided to activate its full-on transformation mode to duke it out with Mira. But while it was busy doing its superhero transformation sequence, Mira effortlessly popped out countless clones to rescue all the kidnapped victims. Once the girls were safe, Mira unleashed her full arsenal of shadow clones, turning that Spider Queen into an absolute punching bag. Not only did these countless clones retain their full power, but this ability also helped her rise swiftly through the ranks to become the captain herself. After handily dealing with the two gate-guarding monsters, Mira and Kyoka ventured inside to investigate, but came up completely empty-handed. Our resident big shot leader insisted Kyoka go get her injuries treated first. Zuki even wanted Sister Seven to get a proper checkup, but for Kyoka it was barely a scratch. Kyoka had to wait until that nosy Dwan person finally left before she dared to give Zuki his reward. Because, this is the real world, so public displays of appreciation might not be the best idea. Zuki definitely pulled his weight in that last fight, so Kyoka felt obligated to give him an extra generous reward. Mira, returning from filing her report, walked in on a scene so scandalous it practically blinded her. Even a seasoned leader like Mira couldn't quite process what she was witnessing, which naturally led her to assume they were secretly engaged, and Kyoka had just taken things far beyond a simple romantic gesture. After leaving the lovebirds, Mira straight up asked Zuki if he was dating that waifu, because he seemed suspiciously worried about her. So Zuki had to explain to Mira that no, he was merely a loyal samurai, completely devoted to his master. Mira apparently gave that explanation a solid 10 out of 10. Though she understood Kyoka was just rewarding Zuki, I gotta admit, if you go that far without dating, I gotta respect your dedication to just friend status. Later that afternoon, as Zuki was just chilling on his bed, Kusetsu decided to make a dramatic entrance. This chaotic waifu immediately turned Zuki into a poor paralyzed human popsicle, leaving him utterly unable to move. Apparently, Kusetsu originally planned to absolutely trash the city for revenge, but since Sister Shikoku forbade it, she conveniently decided to glomp onto Zuki instead. It seems Shikoku held Zuki's abilities in very high regard, so Kusetsu decided he'd be the perfect guinea pig for her experiments. While on the hunt for her new test subject, Kusetsu accidentally stumbled upon a couple getting a little too cozy with each other. Kusetsu, having never personally experienced that kind of connection before, and not knowing what would happen if a mortal mingled with a deity, decided Zuki would be the first to have the honor. Episode 9. After gently pinning Zuki to the bed, this chaotic waifu proceeded to bless him with a little bit of her divine essence. With his body conveniently paralyzed, our boy Zuki was left to thoroughly enjoy his unexpected divine blessing. Our boy Zuki, suffering from success, could only lie still and endure the attentions of that Thunder Empress. Back at the dorms, Himari was busy tutoring little Nae, while Susu, our resident crush addict, was itching to head to Yokohama for a mission, just like the captain. But let's be real, she just wanted to find Zuki, because Yokohama at night was supposedly gorgeous, and experiencing that view with Zuki? Absolutely chef's kiss. In that quiet Yokohama night, with them sharing hugs and kisses, who knows, they might just accidentally create some little monsters. Just thinking about it, Susu burst into maniacal laughter, looking like a total goofball. So Himari had to sternly remind Susu that the person Zuki was currently with was the Thunder Empress, and one wrong move could cost you your life. Indeed, Yokohama's scenery was breathtakingly beautiful, and right now Zuki was about to enjoy himself and create product with Kusetsu. Zuki's face clearly showed his discomfort, but since he couldn't move, he was stuck playing the role of an unwillingly blessed MC. From his face to his whole body, Zuki was exactly to the Thunder Empress's taste, so she graciously allowed him to move his mouth a little, for her pleasure. But that was Kusetsu's biggest blunder, because it allowed Zuki to call out for help to the captain of Squad 2. Mira's sudden appearance made Kusetsu wary, forcing her to back off a step. That villainess quickly phased through the wall, literally, but Mira used her power to shatter the barrier, infuriating Kusetsu, because her beautiful face was now a little dusty. Kusetsu promptly slammed Mira down towards the airport, then unleashed a divine retribution attack, but Mira was no easy target herself. Our big sister leader then unleashed her multiple shadow clones to fight Kusetsu, boosted by the physical power buff she'd received from the vice captain. Kusetsu had already seen this ability back at the warehouse, so she unleashed a literal storm of projectiles to wipe them all out. I might not be able to completely erase Mira, she sneered, but fighting me in the air? You don't stand a chance. And in that one moment of underestimating Mira, our gangster big sister delivered a punch so mighty, Kusetsu's face got rearranged. But the villainess quickly retaliated with a divine retribution of her own right after. However, Kusetsu was currently under a strict no-fighting order from Shikoku, so she couldn't unleash her full power against Mira. Because of this, Kusetsu decided to unleash a horde of foul fiends upon the human world, using them as a convenient distraction to make her escape. The freshly summoned foul fiends immediately swarmed into the city, attacking innocent people. Even massive, gargantuan foul fiends appeared, prompting the police to announce a full-blown demon metropolis disaster to the populace. Even Mira was visibly shaken by the Thunder Empress's absolutely dirty tactics. Before coming to the human world, Shikoku had given Kusetsu a special deck of foul fiend cards that she herself had created. If she ever found herself in a pinch, Kusetsu could unleash the foul fiends stored within, and these summoned creatures would be 10 times stronger than normal. Besides the regular foul fiends, there were also several special variants, and normal members of the anti-demon squad would never be able to solo them. Shikoku had even revived and upgraded 2 foul fiends that Mira and Kyoka had previously obliterated, making them significantly more powerful. Most notably among them was that gargantuan foul fiend. This monster was stronger than all the other fiends combined. After unleashing the foul fiends upon the city, Kusetsu, wearing a smug, triumphant grin, challenged Mira to go save the people. This understandably infuriated Mira. If you truly desire to know, Mira declared with steely resolve, then I shall gladly answer. I won't let a single person die. Mira's signature peach power could either enhance her main body, while cloning, or prioritize the sheer number of clones. So Mira chose to prioritize quantity, unleashing the maximum number of clones and dispatching them to rescue the citizens. Meanwhile, the police force was already calling HQ for backup, because a massive influx of trash demons was flooding the city. Just as a trash demon was about to attack a mother and child, a clone of Mira conveniently dropped in and instantly one-shot it. At this point, Mira's clones were every single hotspot, coordinating with the police to evacuate civilians. In a nearby office building, 2 employees were struggling to open a door, desperately trying to escape outside. And while they were fumbling with the door, they accidentally became a target for a gigantic trash demon. Luckily, a Mira clone showed up just in time to casually bonk it on the head. This made the trash demon furious, and it immediately switched its target to Mira. She realized that it seemed these trash demons were many times stronger than the ones back in Mado. But before Mira could even lift a finger, the gigantic one got a savage slash from Kyoka. The reason Kyoka was so quick to arrive was because she'd just been getting healed at a nearby clinic. Mira ordered Kyoka to team up and take down this annoying thing, then rendezvous with her boy Zuki to corner that other annoying brat. The gigantic trash demon immediately threw a punch at Kyoka, but it was way too slow for our girl Kyoka. Despite its slowness, its durability was easily 10 times that of the earlier manhwa demon. Now, if they kept trying to punch and slash it piecemeal, the damage would be like a drop in the ocean. So both of them decided to unleash a coordinated attack to take it down immediately. Meanwhile, below in the city, Mira's clones had also saved a ton of people, which genuinely surprised Kusetsu. Sweat began to roll down Mira's cheeks because saving so many people was seriously draining her stamina. When she was still the big boss of her gang, Mira always thought she wasn't strong enough alone to take on an entire gang. That's why the mysterious Peach granted her the clone ability, and thanks to that, she could save so many people now. Seeing Mira start to lose strength, Kusetsu promised to meet Big Sis again for the next divine punishment. So Mira cursed out Kusetsu, saying that a god who runs away during a fight could only be a pathetic god. This made Kusetsu absolutely furious, and she decided to immediately turn back and give Mira another divine punishment. Kusetsu didn't know how Mira planned to fight her, since she'd already used all her strength on her cloning ability. But Mira couldn't care less, because her old gang boss fighting techniques were still perfectly intact. So Kusetsu used Koko's slippery abilities to defend herself, but Mira still punched right through it.
Yo, Kusetsu? You there, sis?
That 8th Thunder God girl tried to keep her distance and attack Mira, but Mira immediately called a clone back to use as a springboard to launch herself and punch Kusetsu. After getting a few solid punches from Mira, Kusetsu finally realized the saying that humans can grow stronger when their emotions surge. Mira grabbed Kusetsu by a lock of her hair, then slammed her down at breakneck speed. But just as Kusetsu's pretty face was about to hit, she activated her true form to fight Mira. Meanwhile, Zuki was running all over the city trying to meet up with Kyoka, when the gigantic trash demon suddenly collapsed right in front of him. Because it had just been taken down by their beloved master, and now back to the chaos, Mira called her nearby clones to back her up, but Kusetsu yeeted them into oblivion in a single breath. But Mira saw her chance, unexpectedly charging in and delivering a knockout punch that caught Kusetsu off guard, preventing her from even using her slimy defense. Too bad in this form, Mira's punches might as well have been tickles for Kusetsu. So Kusetsu just punted her away, then went for the divine judgment to finish Mira off. Classic villain move, only for it to be revealed as just another clone. Plot twist. Seizing that exact moment, 2 other Mira swarmed in, delivering a flurry of blows that left Kusetsu literally screaming.
What a bummer, though.
If Mira had just one more clone in that combo, Kusetsu would have been toast. Having burned too much energy saving folks earlier, Mira was now a fish on the chopping block in this fight. Time to pay the piper for all that flexing. But the more they fought, the more fired up Mira got, forcing Kusetsu to grudgingly acknowledge her power before they duked it out again. Meanwhile, Kyoka and Zuki were absolutely flooring it, zooming towards Mira's location. But the moment she arrived, the first thing she saw was Kusetsu casually absorbing Mira. Just another Tuesday, right? Honestly, if I hadn't read the manga, I'd think the author just remembered how to cook up some drama. Even with Kyoka now on the field, this fight just got exponentially harder, especially since Kusetsu now has Mira's clone abilities. Kyoka and Zuki were utterly horrified to hear that Captain Mira had been absorbed by that little pest. Their rage boiled over. Both charged Kusetsu, only for that brat to effortlessly block them in a blink. Then she unleashed a storm of feathers, forcing Kyoka to struggle just to defend herself. She immediately countered with a powerful cleaving strike. But Kusetsu was way too powerful now. Basic attacks basically did 0 damage. Zuki tried to rush in and help Kyoka, but just got casually kicked away. Even after absorbing Captain Mira's power, this form was still basically small fry compared to the other 8 Thunder Gods. Right now, Kusetsu was only letting the anti-demon squad survive, because Seacock apparently didn't want to make any rash moves just yet. Zuki dared to refuse her very sweet invitation earlier, so this time Kusetsu was giving him another opportunity to, shall we say, get closer. But just as she was about to make her move on Zuki, a total stranger suddenly drop-kicked her into the next zip code. Turns out, A was absolutely furious and ready to punch any girl's teeth in if they even thought about flirting with her little brother. And then she felt the life force of Naon and Kokok flowing inside Kusetsu, meaning they were both still alive. That's why all 3 vowed to keep fighting, until that brat finally coughed them back up. But Kusetsu was like, whatever, because now she had access to Mira's ridiculously OP clone ability. No sooner had she finished speaking, Kusetsu spawned countless clones, just like Madara facing down the 5 keg. Kusetsu then went and summoned a massive, ugly demon several times her size. That colossal, ugly demon sent shivers down everyone's spines, and apparently, saving everyone was the single dumbest decision Mira ever made. Talk about karma. But Kyoka argued that she was absolutely right, because letting Kusetsu escape now would be ridiculously dangerous later on. Meanwhile, Gina had just finished dispatching reinforcements to Yokohama, all under Captain Ren's command. No sooner had she said that, the Azuma grandma and grandchild duo dramatically appeared in midair, with Captain Tenka right there with them. But with the power of the Divine Legion, Kusetsu right now was basically untouchable and feared absolutely no one. The moment Tovera showed up, she casually announced herself as the legendary commander of the anti-demon squad. This, of course, instantly lured Kusetsu's clones right into the perfectly laid trap by Tovera and her granddaughter. Thanks to Tovera's intervention, the clone numbers drastically dropped, filling Zuki's squad with newfound confidence. After ditching the residential area, our dynamic grandma-granddaughter duo casually landed on a bridge. Tovera told Mae to hold the line, giving her time to chant her legendary spell. From above, the Kusetsu clones unleashed a relentless barrage of feather bullets, forcing Mae to deploy a defensive barrier to hold them back. Every time one of Mae's protective barriers shattered, she instantly conjured another, tirelessly shielding her grandma. Meanwhile, that absolute clown Kusetsu thought she just needed to keep attacking until the girl was exhausted, completely oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. After a seemingly endless barrage, the divine punishment finally ended, and shockingly, our granny-granddaughter duo stood completely unbothered within Mae's defenses. But Mae was completely drained, and they needed just 10 more seconds to secure the win. But Tovera just smirked, telling her not to worry, because her preparations were finally complete. The words barely left her lips when Tovera unleashed a blinding light, instantly draining all life force from Kusetsu, turning her into a shriveled, ancient hag. Thinking Tovera was distracted, one of the Kusetsu clones brazenly lunged to attack, only to instantly get drained dry by our granny legend. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the literal game-hacking power of the former commander of the anti-demon squad. After the battle, Tovera was absolutely glowing, feeling like she was back in her prime and flexing on these noobs. Word got out that the plan to split Kusetsu was a success, but just when things looked good, an even bigger problem emerged: a colossal, terrifying demon. So our girl Jen casually decided to join the battle, all the way online from her cozy spot in America. As for Jen's legendary peach power, we all know the drill, so no further explanation is needed. But when she activates her abilities in both eyes, her power level gets an insane boost. Jen channeled all her power into her leg, perfectly calculating the distance from America to Japan, before unleashing an earth-shattering kick straight for the target. That attack from Jen was basically a casual meteor strike, flying halfway across the entire planet. This, of course, left everyone absolutely dumbfounded at Jen AK's ultimate aura-farming flex. Jen then casually reassured the president not to sweat it, because she'd perfectly adjusted her kick to avoid any airplanes. The rest, she explained, would be expertly handled by her dearest subordinates. Back in Yokohama, our heroes had to split up to tackle the relentless Kusetsu clones. Hovering menacingly right above them was the colossal demon, making Zuki feel the immense pressure. That little brat Kusetsu was also a master of psychological warfare, knowing that if they focused on her, the monster above would only grow more terrifying. But before Kusetsu could even finish her villain monologue, an unexpected beam of light pierced the demon's face, leaving the trio absolutely stunned. The squad leaders, however, instantly recognized it as a support strike from their legendary commander. Seeing her trump card obliterated in an instant, Kusetsu flew into a furious rage. Seizing that golden opportunity, Zuki and Kyoko wasted no time farming Kusetsu's clones. Meanwhile, squad leader Tenka absolutely deleted the entire horde in a single move with her OP space ability. Tenka's heavenly decree had such an insane area of effect that Kusetsu's minions couldn't even think of resisting, leaving Zuki totally impressed. And just like that, Zuki's heartfelt emotions once again fluttered into Tenka's precious little heart. Harem count, +1. Kusetsu finally realized her army of clones had a collective IQ lower than a single-digit number. And fully controlling these absolute numbskulls would require a whole lot of serious training. While wiping out Kusetsu's clones was easy, confronting the actual villainess was a whole different story. Oba rushed in for the attack, immediately getting a full-power smackdown from the real Kusetsu. Zuki, seeing his sister get clapped, was instantly engulfed in pure rage. He charged to tear apart the clones, only to realize the one who just attacked his sister was also a clone. Seizing the moment, another sneaky Kusetsu clone popped out of the ground, delivering a cheap shot right to Zuki's side. Oba, seeing her little brother get injured, finally snapped. She immediately used her legendary hair to ensnare the pesky clone. She then unleashed her full power with the Demon Bomb, forcing Kusetsu to struggle against the onslaught of purple light. Oba's attack was so ridiculously powerful, it caused a minor tremor across the land. But apparently that's not enough to take down Kusetsu, who only took minor external damage and then casually admitted Aoba was captain-level strong. Not giving Kusetsu a chance to even breathe, Tenka immediately followed up with her own attack. But before she could even land a hit, the 8th Thunder God clone instantly targeted her. Even though she dodged the feather bullet barrage, Tenka still took a hit from yet another sneaky clone hiding underground. After some intense combat, Kusetsu, our resident puppet master, finally got smarter about deploying her clones. Our cunning villainess left Tenka to her dumb clones, opting to personally take on the power duo, Kyoka and Zuki. No sooner did she finish talking than Kusetsu activated her absurdly fast regeneration, completely shocking both of them. The duo realized they couldn't let this woman spawn any more clones, so they decided to unleash their ultimate, heavenly advance. Suddenly, Zuki's body was enveloped in a dazzling surge of energy, leaving everyone completely speechless. And after some serious training, Zuki's heavenly advance state had reached its absolute golden peak. The sheer power Zuki was emitting only made Tavera even more interested in him. Speaking of which, she immediately envisioned the entire Azuma clan acquiring him to produce generations of incredibly powerful offspring. But before she could fully savor that glorious thought, the clones swarmed in again, forcing the grandma and grandson duo to continue the fight. Episode 11. Anyway, back to the main event. Kusetsu ordered her clones to attack, but Kyoka and Zuki swiftly punched them all away. Oba, too injured to fight, could only put all her hopes on her two younger siblings. Kusetsu launched her heavenly punishment, but it was easily dodged before getting countered by a frenzied beast fist. Seizing the opportunity, Kyoka used Yuki's chain to tightly bind Kusetsu, but of course it was another clone. Just then, another clone descended from above to attack Kyoka, buying time for the real Kusetsu to emerge from underground and ambush Aoba. Aoba, who was literally just waiting for this, used her remaining strength to tightly embrace. This had Aba getting continuously pummeled by Kusetsu, but it couldn't stop our boy from trying to save his two close comrades. Seizing the moment, Kyoka and Zuki unleashed their Mado guillotine, but Kusetsu just stood there, completely unfazed. Then she casually retaliated with a literal storm of feathers. Meanwhile, Tovera and her grandma were absolutely struggling, bracing against the onslaught of heavenly punishment from those Kwesukan. And the special police force swore on their lives they wouldn't let those disgusting devils set foot deeper into the city. Captain Tenka, on the other hand, was just casually mowing down Kusetsu's clones like they were pesky weeds. Apparently, her new heavenly advanced state sounded suspiciously like her own name, sending our girl into an emotional overdrive. Kusetsu was simply too strong, forcing Kyoka to pull out all her stops. She literally removed her brain's limiters to temporarily boost her physical strength. This technique was something Kyoka invented specifically to innovate against the 8 Thunder Gods. Kusetsu, not one to back down, obliged Kyoka by unleashing her thousand-armed cannon SP version. And then both sides just charged at each other like total maniacs. The fight was so ridiculously intense, I don't even know what else to say. Kusetsu, with her newly created chaotic punch, managed to inflict an injury. But thanks to that, these two managed to find the key to their new special move, which they'd been training, making Sue pay the price with a precise slash to the shoulder. Our villain realized she might have been a bit too overconfident, so she retreated, letting her clones do the fighting. But among the clones she just summoned, one refused to obey Kusetsu's command, completely baffling her. The words weren't even out of her mouth before that rogue clone punched her, because apparently it contained Mira's consciousness. Kusetsu's clones were so hilariously weak. 1 slash wasn't enough, but 2 was overkill, proving she hadn't fully absorbed our legendary gangster queen yet. Absolutely helpless, Kusetsu resorted to punching herself to try and rein in Mira. Seizing that golden opportunity, Kyoka and Zuki unleashed their ultimate move, the dog-person fusion. After a few seconds of chanting, Zuki completely transformed his body, becoming pure power for Kyoka, leaving everyone utterly stunned. Oba, sensing the situation, realized Zuki hadn't vanished but was now residing inside Kyoka's sword. This ultimate technique was aptly named Sorrowful Blade by Kyoka, and with just one single slash, Zuki, now a stream of special energy, pierced straight through Kusetsu, simultaneously freeing everyone our villain had previously absorbed. He checked on the newly rescued people, only to find them all still alive, making Alba absolutely overjoyed. Who, having taken that last fatal slash head-on, coughed up a bunch of gunk before finally collapsing. Kyoka immediately used chains to bind Kusetsu tight, making sure this menace couldn't lay any eggs. But then Kusetsu's body unexpectedly swelled up, transforming into a massive, ominous seed. It immediately shot out a flurry of tentacles towards Kyoka, trying to swallow her whole. Kyoka effortlessly sliced away those disgusting tentacles before finishing Kusetsu off with one final, decisive bisecting slash. After the battle, Kyoka praised Zuki for perfectly utilizing the heavenly advanced state. Meanwhile, Aba had to quickly get his two friends out of there before the anti-demon squad could even blink. While they were still figuring out where she'd go next, Tenka just casually declared she'd handle it. She then whipped up a bunch of black holes to attack Ruki, but obviously, they were just putting on a show, the only way to fool the anti-demon squad. Just then, Tovera and Maya showed up, ready to congratulate them on their triumph. Tovera would handle the healing, and Maya would go report the intel to HQ. Ruki was super happy that everyone would be instantly recovered, all thanks to Tovera's amazing power. But then his head suddenly spun, and he collapsed from pure exhaustion. But when he finally opened his eyes, Ruki realized he was sharing a bed with Kusetsu. She told him not to panic because this wasn't the real world, but Ruki's subconscious, or his mental space. After her real body was destroyed out there, her remaining power allowed Kusetsu to appear inside Ruki's mind. Because before she was absorbed into Ruki, she had already shared a bit of her divine essence with him. She also told him not to worry, because with her physical body gone, she couldn't affect the outside world anymore. So from now on, Kusetsu would be living inside Ruki's subconscious, and she hoped the two of them would get along. Whenever Ruki was about to wake up in the outside world, his form here would vanish along with it. Having fun with his harem outside during the day, and then coming back here at night to hang out with Kusetsu? That's literally the perfect setup. Our boy Ruki, of course, didn't actually say that out loud. And while he was still trying to figure out what just happened, he woke up in Team 7's dorm, with Nei right beside him. According to Nei, Ruki had been out cold for 2 straight days after his battle with Kusetsu. Ruki's injuries were healed, his body showed nothing unusual, and the captain was at HQ to report the incident. Ruki was about to get up and work when Nei told him, "You just rest. I'll take care of all the cooking today." He accepted Nei's kind offer, but first he needed to shower and change clothes to feel human again. Just then, 3 captains unexpectedly showed up, completely catching him off guard. Thinking back, he still hadn't received his reward from Kyoka after the battle. Mira patted Ruki's head, praising him, saying that if it weren't for him, she would have become an NPC for that little 8 Thunder God. But he humbly stated that it was all thanks to everyone's efforts, and this was a victory for the entire anti-demon squad, especially Mira, who, even though she was swallowed whole, still bravely resisted so her power wouldn't be fully absorbed. Since everyone was fully gathered here, Mira wanted to open a debriefing session. But Kyoka flat out refused, because today was the day she was going to reward Ruki, which made Mira very embarrassed. But Tenka refused to leave, saying that a reward is only fun if everyone gets to give it. Thinking back, Ruki was the one who saved Mira, so big sis Tenka also wanted to help the other 2 give the reward. But when she found out the reward this time was a joint bath, Mira was utterly shocked, because she hadn't even met her husband's family yet. Even more shocking was that Tenka also went along with Kyoka, even though her body wasn't being controlled like her friends. Mira also really wanted to reward Ruki to repay him, but she was just too embarrassed to do it. Our resident demon waifu Ruki was so blissed out with 2 cartons of fresh milk she couldn't even move. Kyoka decided to reward him, calling him a pervert for even thinking about that in a cozy hot spring. Kyoka might be used to his antics, but with Tenka also around, our boy had to pretend to be a little chaste for once. Oh, and they also casually reported that Kusetsu was still chilling in his subconscious. Even though Kusetsu promised she couldn't cause any harm, the 2 captains decided they still needed to keep an eye on things. The trio was almost done with their soak, while Mira was still hilariously debating whether to join them or not. The next day, Mira and Kyoka decided to hold a sparring match to review their battle with Kusetsu. Mira realized she was a bit too eager for a direct brawl with Kusetsu, but felt she was already exhausted from saving the townsfolk. But Mira wasn't thrilled, because as a captain, she felt she should be able to handle challenges of this caliber. So Mira decided to borrow Zuki for some training. But before we get to Zuki's training, let's rewind to last night's dream. In the dream, Zuki was a student at a school with Fubuki as the teacher, Jen as the student council president, a rather enthusiastic senior, and a whole bunch of other characters. But the most special was Kesu, the friend sitting right next to him. After peeking into Yuki's memories and realizing our boy was forever alone during his school days, she decided to make his girlfriend dreams a reality. Even though he didn't want to, he couldn't resist Kusetsu's absolute command. But he successfully skipped out on that dream life shortly after, thanks to the captain calling him for training. Episode 12. Kyoka warned Mira about the reward after borrowing the MC, but Mira brushed it off, saying she wanted to repay our boy anyway. Kyoka didn't seem too happy lending Zuki out, but since they'd have to fight the 8 Thunder Gods in the future, she admitted it was necessary. Plus, Zuki himself said he was able to develop like this thanks to Kyoka, so she decided to act like it was no big deal. The moment Mira touched him, Zuki instantly transformed into a total badass battle bike, straight out of a street gang movie. Speaking of motorcycles, Zuki once dreamed of owning one and taking a girlfriend out on dates. Just cruising along was getting a little boring, so Mira revved the engine to max speed, causing some nasty demons to literally crawl out of the ground. Zuki immediately unleashed a torrent of fire, turning them into crispy critters. Then he zipped around, creating a fiery vortex to sweep away enemies, finally finishing them off with some legendary tire martial arts. Seeing he still had plenty of juice, Mira decided to ride him over to supervise the second squad's area too. Zuki's new form had a super useful enemy detection ability, not to mention it was fast and powerful. After that, Mira told Zuki to head into the garage, because the rewarding was about to commence. Mira had mentally prepared herself for something, but Zuki just wanted them to have a chill drinking session in the car. She even offered him her half-finished can of soda. Talk about an instant. She then snatched the can of water he just gave her. Never before had drinking a can of water been harder than throwing hands with actual fiends. After a little warm-up, the real reward scene you've all been waiting for officially kicked off. I'll just skip the commentary on this scene. Wouldn't want to ruin your precious eyes, dear viewers. That evening, Tenka dropped by Zuki's room to take him somewhere. Kyoka, realizing her bestie just whisked away her precious subordinate, probably had a pretty dark look on her face. But actually, Tenka just wanted to take Zuki to reunite with his big sister. Aoba also revealed that she was able to show up in Yokohama to fight alongside him, all thanks to Tenka. Earlier, she had theorized about Kusetsu's abilities and felt they were connected to certain friends, earning her a perfect 10 from our guy Zuki. Our future sister-in-law Tenka even provided a ton of supplies for Group A without Zuki even knowing, saying it was easier to act alone. Hearing this, he bowed to thank Tenka sis, but she just casually brushed it off, saying, "Couples helping each other is only natural, right?" Coco and Naon also wanted to thank Zuki, but our humble hero insisted he didn't do anything. After which Oba pulled Tenka aside to ask about the Anti-Demon Corps, who hadn't touched Oba's issue yet, because they were swamped with problems concerning the 8 Thunder Gods. In the near future, Tenka will also investigate the Onmyo dormitory to find a way to turn Aoba back into a human, though it will take some time. But Aoba said it was fine, because bringing her whole crew back was more than enough to earn her a spot as Tenka's sister-in-law. Full disclosure, I might have added that last part in for dramatic effect. After escaping outside, despite no physical injuries, both of them felt utterly drained. So Zuki decided to whip out his legendary massage technique, sending his 2 girls soaring straight to Cloud 9. Zuki realized he could perfectly understand every single acupressure point on both of them, probably because Kusetsu's body was residing deep within his subconscious. Even though everything seemed fine, Zuki still had a mountain of issues to face after his battle with that Kusetsu girl. Thinking about all that, he resolved to power himself up even more. After visiting his sister, Tenka brought Zuki back to his room. Standing outside, Kyoka understood everything perfectly, a subtle smile playing on her lips. Soon after, the next meeting between the captains took place. Ren tried to butter up Jen so he could leave early, but it totally backfired. Jen also conveyed the police officers thanks to Mira, as everyone was safe because of her. Now that the real world had also become a battlefield, the captains would have to fight much harder. Kyoka, however, demanded the captains launch a full-scale ambush on the 8 Thunder Gods. But Jen refused, stating they still didn't know the enemy's base or countless other pieces of information, so it would take a lot of time to investigate. But before that, Jen would declare a state of emergency for the Mado Corps by revealing the existence of the 8 Thunder Gods to the entire world. Announcing to the world that our demon-slaying squad is operating at peak performance should put everyone's minds at ease. But first, she wants her beloved subordinates to seriously level up, because they're about to face off against the legendary 8 Thunder Gods. After Jen finished speaking, Ruki was about to ask Kusetsu for information on the remaining 8 Thunder Gods. But ever since she brought him back to school, she hasn't shown her face once. Meanwhile, Juri was grieving over Kusetsu's passing. Just then, Seacock returned because the 2 of them were headed to a meeting of the 8 Thunder Gods. Greeting them was the youngest of the group, Jakun, a chaotic little sibling who specialized in researching and experimenting with vile demons to counter the demon-slaying squad. No sooner had the 2 appeared than another 8 Thunder God suddenly attacked, but she managed to block it. While Juri was completely caught off guard, her rage after Kusetsu's passing made her power surge. And the one who seemed most heartbroken here was Shikoku, because Shikoku was regretting that she shouldn't have let that playful kid go alone. Which is why the 8 Thunder God Fukuma proposed destroying humanity as a burial offering for her. Once all the sisters were gathered, the eldest, Taikyoku, finally made her appearance. Taikyoku immediately ordered Shikoku to kneel and accept punishment for her carelessness. Because Taikyoku was busy caring for their mother, she had entrusted Shikoku with leadership. All other mistakes could be overlooked, but letting mere humans defeat a god was simply unacceptable. Shikoku accepted all punishment, unable to forgive herself. No sooner had she spoken than Taikyoku suddenly summoned a sword, piercing right through Seacock. Before the wound could even heal, Taikyoku ordered her younger sibling not to make a move. And don't torment yourself anymore over Kusetsu's passing, because you've already endured this grievous wound. Taikyoku also hoped her younger siblings wouldn't blame Jikok, even though there was nothing to blame him for. After that, the meeting of the now 7 Thunder Gods finally officially began. They were supposed to launch a coordinated attack on the demon-slaying squad's headquarters, but their power was far greater than Seacock had initially thought. Therefore, she decided to accelerate the Day of Purification plan, because only then could they launch a full-scale assault. But Rion disagreed, calling it a cowardly move. My guy, some people call that strategic caution. So, the plan was to follow the siblings' advice, prepare thoroughly, while also launching some casual harassment attacks on the anti-demon squad. All because Xian had a special squad of what he called divine servants. These were humans who'd been granted divine powers, and whoever performed the best would earn the ultimate honor of snagging the last seat among the 8 Thunder Gods. Naturally, this would make them all super happy and motivated. Plus, there was one particular divine servant who was absolutely desperate for more godly power, so this was his big chance to prove himself. Seacoke agreed. But first, he wanted Fukuma and Ren to team up and show the anti-demon squad a real good time. The boss lady had given them a clear KPI, make 1,000 people log out every single day, so it was time to show humanity the true power of the divine. Meanwhile, Squad 7 was also having a meeting, diligently working on boosting their members' power levels. First up, Kyoko was going to help everyone unlock their full potential. And then it was time to power up her personal slave. From now on, Kyoko declared Ruki would officially be the squad's public training dummy. Anyone who wanted to borrow him could, so he could power up even faster. No sooner had she said that than 3 of the guys immediately jumped in to borrow Ruki, much to Squad 7's leader's annoyance. Ruki was totally wiped after his battle with Kusetsu, so Kyoko ordered him to rest up, but made it clear he'd be training with her later. Ruki heard that and immediately sealed the deal. He wanted to get stronger to help Kyoko snag that general captain spot. This made her crack a smile, muttering, "Now that's my slave." A few days later, Jenin suddenly showed up at Squad 7's base, catching Ruki totally by surprise. Jen, smelling delicious aromas from the kitchen, immediately demanded her little brother whip her up a meal. And the way she ate was so ridiculously perfect, Ruki couldn't even blink. Ruki's cooking was so divine, she decided to bless him with a reward. Which, let's be honest, was basically forcing him to accept it. But Jen wasn't exactly thrilled, because normal, unpowered-up Ruki was, in her eyes, nothing special. Because if she didn't get to discipline Ruki after he transformed, it wouldn't really count as revenge for that one embarrassing incident. So yeah, the epic battle of who's the master and who's the pet was